My name is Sildurs, and I animate builds in vanilla Minecraft. I showcased an actual flying hot air balloon on a recent episode of my survival let's play. Naturally, there were some problems. Ow, what the heck? Why am I getting hurt like this? Let's just go down. Ooh, that was not on purpose. And I immediately started coming up with solutions. So I'd like to present to you the Hot Air Balloon 2.0. This is a fully functioning flying vehicle that is easily controllable in all directions from within the little hanging basket. And the best part is that there's absolutely no range limit. You can 100% explore the entire Minecraft world by riding this hot air balloon, which now features a smaller, more compact design, an easier control panel with an easy reach, a safer basket, and an auto land function complete with rope ladder. Hey, if you just want to skip to the tutorial, just click on the timestamp down below in the description. Alright, I think everybody's ready to see this thing fly. As always, remember to make a backup. I am going to do this in survival mode just to show you that it does in fact work. Let's climb up our ladder here and get ready to take off. First we need to make sure that we're going up in the center. This is the first time I've activated this, so just double checking. We do need to click the up button, and then I'm going to start the clock, and now we're off. Anytime we want to just stop immediately where we are, we just need to click the clock button. I do currently have command block input set to true, so let's go ahead and set that to false, because I don't want to keep seeing every time that it teleports me. And as soon as we're ready to keep going, all we have to do is hit clock again, and it will continue the last instructions. If I want to go diagonally in this direction, I can click that button, and now we're starting to move that way. And let's go ahead and stay level. Now I'm just going straight across, straight to the side here. And as soon as I'm ready to start coming down, I just need to hit the down button. And if I want to go straight down, let's hit the center button here and just make sure we don't have nothing below us. Now we're going to test the auto land function. I don't need to do anything. I just need to tell it that I'm going down. As soon as I get within range, it will detect that the ground is below me and it'll stop it and put out the ladder. And there we go. Now that we're on the ground, we can open up our trap door and just casually go down our ladder. It is not, however, a self-contained unit and does require a controlling circuit to be built within the spawn chunks. The outside of the balloon doesn't matter much. I just wanted a teeny tiny fun-sized balloon to see how small I could make it. What really matters is what's on the inside. Just like what my mother used to tell me. Except for the little basket where the player obviously stands, the simplest part of this is the selection panel. It's just a bunch of buttons that powers the structure block above it, which saves the state of that button. So let's get rid of that. What we're left with is what I generally call the core. These three blocks are just the teleportation part of it. So if I click that, it will teleport me down here. That's just how the player rides the hot air balloon, so we can get rid of that for now. And we're just left with this curious cluster of structure blocks. So what do they do, and how do they make the hot air balloon fly? I think it's best that we start from the most basic concept. This save block, named Test 1, is just saving this area right over here. In this area, we need an observer and a load block, also named Test 1. We will need to realign this bounding box just one above where it was previously saved, and we can do that with the relative position. Now we can press the save button and activate this by just placing a block in front of it, which sends it rocketing uncontrollably into the sky. Now we need to be careful about using observers inside these structure block circuits, because every time that the structure block activates, the observer automatically gets updated. So in order for us to gain a little bit of control here, what we need to do is we need to set up an observer clock that goes into a structure block. And this structure block is going to be called test clock. We're going to give it a size of 1 by 1 by 1, and I'm going to place it in a very specific position right over here. Now if we go ahead and turn this into a load block, and then we make the same copy over here, so we're just constantly copying this area, and this one is just constantly loading that area. So whenever I place a block here, it automatically gets placed over there. So what we're going to use is a block of redstone, and this is going to be how we are going to control when our balloon actually moves. Now the next part is to place a structure block right here, and this one we're going to call test core, and we're going to give this one a size of 1 by 1 by 1 as well. Now we're going to turn this into a load block, but first we need to give it the proper positioning. So now this structure block is going to be constantly loading this block below. Now if we take this structure block here that is called test core, place it over here on an observer clock and change it to save, it's going to do the same function as the clock. Every time that we place something here, it's going to get placed over there. So now what happens is every time that we place a structure block here and a redstone block there, this redstone block is going to activate this structure block. Currently it's not doing anything because this is just an empty structure block, but let's go ahead and change that. This is where you are most likely to mess up. Just like earlier where we aligned the bounding box to be 1 block higher for moving up, we need to do the same thing for every possible direction. Imagine this glass is a block of air. We want to make sure that there is a block of air on all sides of our balloon. So all the way around and all the way on top. So one there, and we also want one on the bottom. So this bounding box should hold all of these air blocks. So because of where this bounding box is, every time this gets activated, it doesn't move because it is loading the exact same area that it's already in. So if we go ahead and make a copy of this using Control and middle click on our mouse button, and we place the structure block there, and then we come to this one and we go 1 higher on the y-axis, hit done, you'll see the bounding box over here has changed. So now every time that we activate it with a redstone block, it moves up. So now we can take a Control middle click copy of that one, and let's place it on top of there. You can see that it's higher, and let's change this. Now we need to go down 2 because we're going up and we want to go down now. So now every time that we activate this, it goes down. So let's take a Control middle click copy of that one, and we can place it right there. With just these 3 blocks, we can now control the altitude of our balloon. All we have to do is grab a copy of each of these blocks and place them in this spot. With the clock running, the balloon moves all on its own. When we use this other structure block, it goes the other direction. And of course, when we use the 3rd structure block on our hotbar, our hot air balloon's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay perfectly level. If we want to go in the west direction over there, we need to take this bounding box and move it in that direction, which is going to be -1 more on the x direction. So now, whenever we activate it with the redstone block, it moves over in that direction. Just like before, we're going to take Control middle click of that one, and let's put it right here. Now, we don't have to keep using this over here every time. We can just take this one, place it down below it, and then change it to be 1 lower, and then also place it on top and change it to be 1 higher. Now I like to keep the bounding boxes on while doing this, just to make sure that they all line up just like this. At the end, you should have 27 structure blocks set to load with the same name but different relative positions. The selection panel is by far the easiest part of all of this. All you're going to need to build this are some redstone lamps, some structure blocks on top, and some stone buttons on the bottom. Now, anytime that you press one of these buttons, it will activate only this structure block. Even though these lights are turning on, only this structure block that is directly above the block that is getting directly powered by the button gets powered and activated. You can see this easier if we have just redstone lamps. The middle button here only turns on the middle lamp, and this button only turns on that lamp, because these are the only ones that are getting powered. So now if I go in here, make this a save block, and we're going to do the structure size of just 1 by 1 by 1, and the relative position is going to be 0, -2, 0. And the bounding box is going to show you here, we are saving the button itself. Let's go ahead and name this test button underscore, and we're going to leave it just like that. I'm going to hit done. I'm going to do a control middle click, and then I'm going to replace all of these with that one block. That way they are all saving the button that is directly below them. Now all I need to do is come through here and put in all the names. Obviously the middle one here is the easiest, as it is just a center. We're going to hit done. And then all you need to do is hit F3 and just look in the direction. And we're looking over here to the left where it says facing. And it says west, south, east, north. We're just going to apply that to this here. So we're looking south. We're going to call this one button south. This is west, so we're going to call this one button west. And then the one in the corner is going to be a combination of those two as southwest, also known as my least favorite airline. Now once all of these are named appropriately, when we hit the button, we are actually making a selection of this button specifically to the one block that we're powering. As I'm sure you've already noticed, we have 27 different directions that we could possibly go, but only 9 buttons. And the solution is to add 3 more buttons. But wait, you say, 9 plus 3 isn't 27. You are correct, but 9 multiplied by 3 is 27. But how do we multiply buttons? From the simplest to the most complicated part of all of this, Merry Christmas, by the way, let's break down what's going on over here. Every time we press one of those buttons, we activate one of these slices over here. When those slices get activated, they change this vertical column of structure blocks. But whenever we want to change the altitude of our hot air balloon, we need to choose to go either up or down, but we can only save one of these structure blocks. So over here, we decide which one of these 3 blocks we save by selecting which one of these 3 blocks we power. So right now we're powering the middle one here, as you can see with the light. That's the level one, so the one that is being saved is level north right here. If we wanted to change that, we come over here and we power the up slice. That will power the up block right here, as you can see by the repeater and the redstone lamp. And this is saving this block right on top. And since these 3 blocks are named core, the block that is saved into these structure blocks gets put into our balloon right over here. So this is our balloon that is being loaded into by this core. Everything else that is over here is just a way for us to process a button press into a redstone signal that we can use to load in this column of blocks that we can save one of those 3, so we can load into our hot air balloon, which then we use with our clock to make it move. The way that we process all of these button presses is all based on these vertical slices right here. They're all being activated by an observer clock, which is powering this common line in the middle. So each one of these target blocks represents a different button that we can press. So we have an observer clock, which is activating some redstone, and this is where our central line would go that would activate each of our target blocks, but we're just going to do one at a time here. Now the first thing we need to do is go to our structure block that is saving the button, and we're just going to control middle click, copy that one. We're going to place it right here against that target block, and then we're going to change this into a load block. And then we're also going to place a bottom slab right there. We want to make sure it's a slab because we don't want to activate this when we load in our powered button. So now whenever we press one of these buttons, we are saving this button with this structure block in the powered state here. This is unpowered and that's the powered state. So we come over here and you can see that we are constantly loading that structure block and the button is staying in a powered state. If we were to leave it like this and tried to get a signal out of that, we get a constant signal, but we just want to get a pulse from that button. So what we would need to do is we would need to change this button back into a block of air. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use Minecraft off. Now this is one that I've already set up to be a block of air. Just a single block of air. And I want it to load right here in the same position. So now if I give this a chance to activate, you can see what's happening here. Each time that the structure block up here gets loaded in, it places a powered button, and then that powered button activates this structure block, which then places an air block there. But since this is continuously loading the powered button, it basically makes like a little clock here, but we don't want that. We want this to pulse once and stop. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get this block, which I already have the NBT block here, and I'm going to place it on top of that one. Now I like to have the bounding box above just in case I want to place one of these blocks down here just to tell me when I've done something. And now that's all we need in order to take one of these button presses and make a single pulse come out of it. So press the button, you can see it shows up for a split second, and then while this places air here, this is saving the button center as just an empty block of air. So now this structure block is just placing air here. So now that we can process that button, let's do something with it. Do you remember those stacks of structure blocks? Well, if we go ahead and bring one of those over here and we go ahead and save it inside of a structure block, let's call this one test vertical slice underscore center. We're going to make this a save block. Hit control middle click to copy it. We're going to bring another block out to here, but this one is going to be a corner block. And when we click the detect button here, it saves both the stack of structure blocks and the signs that attach to them. Down here, let's hit the save button on the right hand side. Now let's put a blank structure block here, and we're going to call this test vertical slice underscore, and get a control middle click copy of that one and place it right here. Let's go 1, 2, 3 blocks up, and then we will also come out to right here, and we're going to make this a corner block. This one is also going to be a corner block. Then we hit detect. It solves our position for us. Now come back over here, and we're going to call this center, just like that. Change this to a load block, and now we can hit load, and over here we have up center, level center, and down center, just like we saved from over here. Now I've already set up a second one over here, and this is for going west. And now when I hit my button over here, you can see the signs changed to the west column, and I can just cycle between these two. Now we're at center, and now we're at west. Now it's just a matter of selecting which of these three we want to use. I'm going to use a little bit of color coding here to keep track of which block we are saving. So let's place these over here. We need to make sure we have one space right here open. Next, we're going to set up the structure blocks, and we're going to start with just one right here. We're going to call this test core and make it a save block. We're just saving one block, so 1 by 1 by 1. There's our box, and I'm going to just bring this over. Okay, so now this block is right here in this empty space. So let's get a control middle click copy of that one and place it on either side. So now we know that block goes to there, that block goes to there, and that block goes to there. So we just got to do this one at a time. The green one will be the easiest. We need to just go down 2 blocks. The blue one, we need to go down 1 block, and then we also need to go over 1 block over here. And the red one, we're going to go down 3 blocks and over 1 block right there. Now we can double check ourselves here with an observer clock and a structure block, and we're just going to call this test core and hit done. So now every time we make a selection over here, we should see that color match up right down here just as selected. So now we know that that's working. We can get rid of these colored blocks. We want this selection to happen automatically, so we need to add 3 more buttons. Yes, these 3 buttons here. Test button up, test button level, and test button down. Now we can place those over here, just like before. We can just take this block here with control middle click copy and place that one all the way across. It's just gonna be placing the error block there. Then take these again and place them over here. I like those to be on top. And these structure blocks all need to be load blocks. And we can color code these real quick just to make sure that we keep everything straight. With an empty structure block, we're going to place it right here, and we're going to call this test altitude underscore. Do control middle click copy of that and place it on top of this other one, and both of these are going to be corner blocks. And then we're also going to take that load block that we had over here. We're going to change these to save blocks. And then we're going to hit detect on all 3 of them. That just makes sure that they're all lined up right here in the same area. And now the easy part. We're going to start with the redstone repeater facing into the blue block, which, if you remember from earlier, was the top block over here. So we're going to come over to the blue slice here, and we're going to name this one up. We're going to hit save and go back in and change it to load. Now we're going to do the green block. Go to the green slice. We're going to change this name to level. We're going to hit save. Then we're going to change it to load. And then last, we're going to do the red block here. Go to the red slice. Change this name to down, hit save, and then change it to load. We can double check our work here with an observer clock and a structure block. We're going to call this test core and hit done. That's all we need to do. So now this block is constantly loading what any of these 3 blocks are saving, which should be one of these here. So let's bring our color coding back here, and we're going to start with the bottom one, which is red. See, we automatically get red because that's the one that's activated. Then we got our green and blue. Now anytime we press one of these buttons, it should automatically change to the appropriate color, and that's how we know that we have done this correctly. Let's go ahead and use the buttons we set up earlier for center and west. And now you can see that they are changing appropriately. That's all we need for our 27 directions, but we still need one more button, and this one is for the clock. I don't want to spend too much time going over how to build this clock. It's basically just an etho hopper clock with one item inside of it. This redstone block controls whether or not it is on or not, so currently it is off because it is locking out the piston over here. But all this is doing is every time that the redstone block gets pushed over here, it activates this structure block, which we have named clock, and that is saving a redstone block. And then immediately after that, the next structure block, also called clock, very important, is just saving a block of air. That gives our balloon basically one pulse of redstone in order to activate this structure block, but since it replaces it with air, it goes right back to being inactive, waiting for the clock to say, yeah, you can move again. If you want to build it exactly the way I did, here you go. You should be able to build it from that. I really kind of just fiddled with it until I got it to work, and I am too scared to touch it and change it and possibly never make it work again. So what does our button actually do then? Well, since this vertical slice doesn't have a structure block at the end over here, all this does is it gets rid of the button. But if you look down here, we're actually activating this sticky piston, which pushes the redstone block back and forth. So when the sticky piston gets activated, it toggles our clock, whether it's on or off. And all these blocks do is set either a redstone block here or an air block. And real quick, if we come back over to our selection panel, we can add in our last button with a structure block on top, and we're going to call this one button clock, and then throw our button here. I like to use the wooden buttons on these four just to differentiate that they are not your typical horizontal directions. Now with a complete selection panel, we can build up our core here. So let's place the core down first and then the clock on top of that. Then we need our observer clock. So let's get our two observers going here. This is almost everything. We just need a way to ride this hot air balloon. Teleportation is super simple. We're going to start by putting down a note block with an observer and then a command block. Inside the command block, we're doing just a simple teleport command targeting at P, which is just the nearest player. These are the numbers for me, and you just play with it a little bit to make sure you got it down right. By adding the 0.3 onto the -7 here, I raise up the player just enough over the trapdoor, so that way they're standing on top of it. You don't really need to have the note block, but it makes it very easy for testing. Do you remember this little guy when we just activated the observer one time and it just shot off into the air? Well, we can actually use that behavior. Every time the hot air balloon is loaded in, this observer gets activated, which powers the command block. That helps to make sure that every time the hot air balloon moves, we actually move with it. Unfortunately, because we are teleporting after the balloon is loaded in its new position, we get this very unpleasant visual glitch, and if anybody knows how to fix this and comes up with a better way to sync up the teleportation and the movement of the hot air balloon, please tell me down in the comments, because I really want to get this fixed. You see, the problem is structure blocks apparently load before a command block will activate with a redstone signal. So this command block is just going to teleport us right above it, and this structure block will just go up one block, But if we try and place this right here in the middle, it just moves. It doesn't actually activate the command block. So we can just sit here and move this, but never actually get teleported. Hey Mojang, I would love for the command block to activate before a structure block is loaded in. That would make everything about this so much smoother. And that is everything that you need in order to have a functioning hot air balloon in Minecraft. But wait, if you want the best feature, I have saved the best for last. That's right, we're talking about that auto land function. As soon as I came up with the idea for automatically landing the hot air balloon, I knew that I had to figure it out. Thankfully, it turned out to be very simple to implement, actually. And it all comes down to this block right here. Now, if we take a look at the bounding boxes right now, this big bounding box currently represents the entire area that the balloon loads every single time that it wants to move. So if we were to try and land this, it would end up blasting a hole into the ground. It would just completely delete all of this ground, and it actually would never stop all the way down through bedrock, and you would end up falling and dying in the void. So the most important part of this is making sure that this one block bounding box, this one right here, is below the overall bounding box for the entire balloon. And this bounding box is coming from a structure block that we have tucked away right up here. So let me show you the top of this. It is this one right here. This is a save block that we have called check land, because all it is doing is checking to see if there is land below the hot air balloon. The way that it detects if there is land below is if there is a solid block right here, and when I do that, we automatically get our ladder to come down, and it stops our clock for us. So it works beautifully, and I absolutely love it. So let's take a look at the controller again and see what's going on here. Since we don't have to process a button press, we don't need to have all of this. We just need to have one block here that has our check land structure block, and this is going to be constantly loading a block right here. There are a couple of things that are happening as soon as a solid block gets loaded in right there. First things first, we have a redstone block and repeater that is powering this block, and it immediately powers this structure block. So if we look, this is our vertical slice landed, and this is loading in a vertical column right over here, and every single one of these are balloon landed. It's just like the balloon, except it has the ladder on it, and all three of these are the same, just to be sure that we land right where we need to be. The other thing that happens is this repeater gets powered, which powers this structure block, which is a clock stop. Now this is just 2 blocks right over here, and it's in this configuration with an air block right here and a redstone block right there. As we saw from before, this is our clock off, which places a redstone block right over here. Next, we use a redstone repeater to power this save block, which is a clock structure block, and that saves a redstone block, which then also powers the next one, which is also a clock block, and then air. So basically what this part does over here is it activates the balloon clock just one last time after we stop the clock, just to make sure that our balloon landed structure block gets loaded into the balloon and activated. This is going to be your final result. Just wrap it up in a balloon-shaped exterior and enjoy your hot air balloon. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments, and if you make a hot air balloon of your own, I would love to see it. Come find me on Twitter, make a video, show it to me on YouTube. I don't know, I want to see what you make. I hope everyone is enjoying the holidays, and I will catch you in the next one.